Okay, we're going to hear from our winning crew chief and car owner, the number 4 Jimmy John Chevrolet, and what a finish we had here today at Phoenix International Raceway. The margin of victory, .010, closest margin of victory in the history of this racetrack. And certainly it ties the margin of victory that we saw in our season opener at Daytona. So the first 4 races of the season, we've had 2 margin of victories, .010. And Gene, I'm going to ask you first. What was your, how was your heart beating there that last restart?
Well, when the caution came out, you know, it just happens this way so many times. A few laps to go, the caution comes out, and it seems like we always come up on the short end of it. But you know, you have to give Rodney, you know, a lot of kudos there. He has a plan and he stuck with it, and this time it worked. I think Kevin did a great job slowing Edwards down. So, you know, made for a great finish is what it's all about, and that was a great finish.
Thank you, Gene. And Rodney, certainly that last call on the pit stop, or on the last call not to go to pit road. I believe you and the 88 might have been the only cars that didn't do that. But talk about your mindset, your strategy on doing that, and you know, why you made that call.
Yeah, when it's that situation, you always wonder what the right thing to do is, and you know, every race we've won here as a 4-team, you know, that caution has come out late, and we've ended up staying out and been able to be okay. You know, our last adjustments on our last stop just ended up, you know, getting it going the way it needed to go, and finally hit it right. And you know, I knew that he had kind of been riding and saving his stuff, and thought we'd be okay, but every time there's always, you know, 7 or 8 that stay out in that situation, and when there was only 3, that turned into a little bit of a panic mode for me. But you know, I thought we would be okay, and then after that first lap, I'm like, this is going to be close. So just thankful of the job that Kevin does. You know, it's really a pleasure for us to come here and to work with him. And you know, there's a lot of hardworking people back at Stewart Haas that put everything into this race. You know, it's one of those deals where you have to focus on the places that you're good at, and you know, we put everything that we had into it to try to come out here and win the race.
Take questions now for Rodney or Gene. We'll start here. Tom Jensen on the front row in the light blue shirt right here, and then we'll go to Mike and then Bob.
Hey, Rodney, congratulations. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. How much thinking do you do about what decision to make, or is it just kind of automatic? Because, you know, you think back to Homestead in 2014, you made a call that was pretty bold and wound up winning you the championship. Is it just kind of a reflexive thing, or do you have to think about it a lot?
Honestly, you think about it every lap. You know, as you're running along there, you know, probably every 2 laps you look up, you see how many laps are on the tires, you look at how you're running compared to your competitors, and so about every 2 to 3 laps in your head you say, what if the caution come out now? What if the caution come out now? What if the caution come out now? And I used to always look over at my engineers and ask that question, and you know, we would all kind of say, well, I think we should do this. And honestly, about, I don't know, 4 years ago, I finally figured out that was the wrong thing to do. You got to go with your gut. You don't ask anybody anything. You just got you got to do what you think's right. It's my butt if it's wrong, you know, and I want to be responsible. So, you know, it was way too close today. You know, that shouldn't have happened. And but all in all, we ended up winning the race, which is good. But you know, it just happened to work out. It wasn't the right thing to do.
Mike Embry, go ahead.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Rodney, you guys were strong in the first half of the race, but you didn't lead. Were you kind of where you wanted to be then, or did you have some pretty big adjustments in the second half?
Yeah, we made our first adjustment, and the car drove better, but it wasn't any faster. And then our next adjustment was just bad. It didn't do what we thought it would do, and we just weren't very good. And we had to back up on that adjustment, and then kind of see where our balance was, and then constantly work on it the whole time. But the last the very last stop we had was we made some good adjustments, and he told me in Victory Lane it was pretty awesome that last run. So, you know, it's one of those things you don't know what's right. You know, you got a new package and you got new tires, and you know, the thing that we did halfway through the race that was bad was something we've always done here to help make the car turn, and it did just the opposite. So you have to just weed yourself through it the whole race and figure out what's best.
Let's go Bob Pockrass, and then we'll go to Dan.
ESPN. Rodney, am I kind of wrong to think that Kevin Harvick is so good here that he wins races in ways that nobody really should win races, in the sense of somebody with 2 tires fourth should really beat somebody who's leading the race with 2 to go?
It just depends. You know, the tires, they did a really good job with the tires, but the tires still need to be softer. You know, there's no reason a car should be able to stay out there at the end of the race and win. So, you know, they're learning just like we're learning, and we're going to keep making them softer and softer, I hope, and keep making it better and better. So, you know, the whole deal is just getting your car where it drives good. The 19 guys did a really good job the whole weekend. I felt like they had a good car, and Dave and Carl did a good job during the race. Their pit crew did an awesome job, and they did everything right. And you know, when they go home tonight, they're going to feel good about what they've done. So, and the same thing goes with us. We felt like we had one of the smoothest Fridays we had ever had here, and then we turned around and qualified 18th. So. You just don't ever know. We've got some learning to do, and we still got to figure some things out.
Yes, go ahead, Dan, and then we'll go to Joey and then Stan.
Dan Beaver, NBC Sports. Picking your way to the front the way you did, do you feel like this was one of the cleanest races that you've had since Daytona, and does that help change the momentum?
I think so. You know, we just really haven't had some things go our way. You know, Atlanta, we had an incredible car that whole day, and the bad thing about it is our car wouldn't keep tires on it for that long. And I knew if I pitted when the 48 did, we were going to be on cords and we were going to get beat anyway. So it finally, you know, just came down to a situation where we were going to get beat, and there was no way around it. So, you know, and then once you lose control of the race and have to restart in the wrong line there, you're done. So, you know, that one didn't go our way. And then last week, I don't know. I mean, we were okay in the race, and there was times in the race where we were faster than everybody, but it still wasn't 4-car fashion. You know, we've got to get better and got to take better cars to racetrack and get better setups in them. So we're working hard to do that.
Go ahead, Joey.
Joey Barnes, Tribute Racing. Just wondering, we had a lot of tire issues happen throughout the day. Was that a concern on that final run for you, and were y'all having any issues with that?
We didn't have any issues. You know, in all honesty, that's been going on here for the last few years. I can remember all the way back maybe 2-3 years ago when Earnhardt Jr. had a right rear bead melt. So every time we come here, we just try to keep a bunch of air blowing on that right rear as much as we can to take care of it. But we took one set of tires off, and I think the wheel was about 315 degrees when they took it off. So there, you know, it's part of this learning curve. I think, you know, it's nobody's fault. It's not Goodyear's fault for sure. They brought a great tire. It's just the teams have got to learn more about all this stuff and using more brake and all that. So, you know, I thought it was good. You know, you just gotta be smart and take care of your stuff.
Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. It's really for both of you. The last lap, the last couple of 100 feet here, were you holding your breath? What were you thinking? And how quickly, when the checkered flag flew, did you know that the win was yours?
It was wow, it seemed like. Pretty much from the dog leg all the way back to the start-finish line, I don't think I was breathing at all. I don't think my heart was beating either. But, you know, they crossed the line, and I felt like we won. And then I looked up at the monitor, and it said we won. But then they were waiting to look at the camera, and I'm like, you know, you just hold your breath and hope it's the best.
Chris, you have a question? Yeah. Chris, and then Lee.
Chris Knight, Kitchens.com. Congratulations to you guys on the win. Second last year at Auto Club Speedway. How do you feel about going into next weekend after the win today and the new aero package?
I feel pretty good about it. I don't feel like it's probably the best car we have, but it's the car we won at Dover with in the fall, and we ran third at Texas with driving with one hand for 150 laps. So I think we'll be okay. I really don't know. I think we have to work on our setups better. You know, I don't feel like our platform was near controlled good enough at Vegas. It seemed to me that the 48 had it figured out better than anybody at that particular racetrack, and we just got to figure some things out this week and hopefully have a good car next weekend.
Take a final question from Lee.
Lee Spencer, first for Rodney. When you took the wheel off, it was 315 degrees. Was that the stop? I guess it would have been your second to the last stop because you told Kevin you had issues with the, I believe, right rear. Was that the same stop?
I don't think it was. No. We had a pit stop deal early in the race.
Oh, okay.
I think a gun shut off, or he didn't get a lug nut off, or something like that early in the race.
Okay. And Gene, before the race, asked you whether or not the change to Ford, if you had noticed any difference in performance, and you said, well, we haven't won yet. You've won. So you think your teams are where they need to be right now?
You know, Chevrolet's a winning brand. It's won for us in the past, and we're going to win as many races as we possibly can this season. You know, I think that you know, all in all, that you know, we'll have a good season. And I think the transition is not really going to have any effect on what we do this year.
Congratulations to Rodney and Gene on this win here today, and best of luck out at Fontana.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. That was fun. That was pretty awesome. You guys had a great view of it. Where's my compadres?
They left already. They got
Done?
tired of waiting.
Oh. I got 3 cold beers. I'll do it if you guys do it.
Game on.
Really?
Okay, we're going to hear from our race
25
winner.
ounces.
Our race winner is Kevin Harvick, and he drives the number 4 Jimmy John's Chevrolet for Stewart Haas Racing. Kevin, 8 wins here at Phoenix International Raceway. You're the all-time leader in the Sprint Cup Series at this racetrack. Your 32 career wins, won 5 out of 6 here at Phoenix, and that margin of victory, .010, is the closest in the history of this racetrack, tied for 7th closest in the history of Sprint Cup Series since the advent of electronic scoring.
I got a few in that category.
Yes, you do.
So why we need to make it so dramatic?
Congratulations. Talk about this win and you know, everything that went into the last few laps, the strategy, what you're thinking, of course, what Rodney's thinking, and then how you raced there at the end.
Well, I guess we can start with the end. I had no idea that the cars behind me had 2 tires. I never asked. I just figured I was going to be on defense regardless, just for the fact that I don't even know who was third, but you know, everybody wants to win a race, and you know, especially at these corners where you have the high braking situations, you're pretty vulnerable. So, you know, I probably went a little bit too much on defense, just for the fact that, you know, if I got hit, I wanted to be able to drive out of the slide instead of wind up with the fuel cell into the wall. So, you know, I made it. You know, I think that the theory was, after talking to Rodney, was definitely to stay in control of the race, because the restarts can get a little bit hectic as you get into turn 1. So, you know, I got a good restart, got through 1 and 2 good, got through 3 and 4 fairly well, and you know, they told me that the 19 was back there. And I thought I could beat him through 1 and 2 on the last lap there, but I knew I was going to have to be on defense because he beat me through the center of 3 and 4 all day. So I was fully expecting everything that I got, but I just needed to be able to get knocked up the track far enough to be able to put the throttle back down. So maybe a little bit too defensive. I missed the bottom, with the way that the rubber had built up on the racetrack. It just kind of walked up the track, and he was able to hold the bottom and able to get to the left rear. And, I felt like I got back to the throttle even, soon enough to be able to hold him off. But I was kind of a couple feet behind and was able to kind of scrub against his door a little bit to slow him back down. And by the time he had realized that he was going to be behind and we had carried the momentum by him, we were at the start-finish line. So fun finish. I think as drivers and as a sport, that's really the benefit, one of the benefits of the low downforce package and the tire situation. The tire situation, being the biggest thing is so that you have those different strategies with the late cautions, to where you have 2 tires, you have no tires, you probably have 4 tires, I'm sure, to have the comers and goers and the exciting finishes. So that is exactly what we're all looking for finishes and strategy as you look at the low downforce and the soft tires.
Thank you, Kevin. We'll take a few questions. We'll start here with Reed and then go to Tom. Go ahead right here, please. Reed and then Tom.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Carl said that basically he meant to move you, but he didn't want to hit you hard enough to wreck you. I would assume that from your point of view, everything was done as it should have been today.
I would have done the same thing, and that's really, after the race, that's exactly what we said to each other. That's really what NASCAR racing is all about. You're coming to the checkered flag, and he wants to win for his team, and I want to win for my team, and there's a lot on the line. So, it's definitely, the way that things should have been done. And, I fully expected it going into turn 3 and would have done the same thing.
Let's go to Tom. Tom and then Jim.
Hi, Kevin. Tom Jensen, FoxSports.com. Congratulations on the victory. You've been down this road with Rodney before on the tire call at Homestead when you won the championship. When the race is on the line, do you totally trust him, or do you guys have back and forth on it? And
I never asked today. It's just, and I never asked at Homestead. The year we won the championship, I just, Rodney and I talked about that before we ever ran a race. Unless there's something wrong, I don't have the type of information that he and Dax have sitting up on top of that pit box, and losing control of the race and putting yourself in traffic is it's a tough spot to be in, because we've lost a lot of races, dominate races, and what happens is the field is just waiting to see what you do. They're going to do the opposite. That's 9 times out of 10 when you dominate those days, which we have a lot over the past 2.5 years or 2 years, whatever you want to call it. We've been in a lot of these situations to where we've lost races just because, the strategy just doesn't work out. But when you have half the field that's on the lead lap do the opposite of what you do, well, that's just what they're going to do. If we pit right there, half the field stays out. And that's, we're just in that type of position, and I'm glad we're in that position, because our cars are fast, and that's the only way they're going to beat us on days like that when it's all going well. And it was just better for us to keep control of the race than it was to put it in somebody else's hand and hope you get a good restart.
We'll go to Jim and then to Mike Embry and Bob Pockris.
Jim Utter, Motorsport.com. Rodney was talking about there were some things, I think he said in practice and qualifying, and even one time in adjustment in this race, where he tried things that have worked for you guys in the past that didn't work this weekend. I wondered, as someone who has won here multiple times and in many fashions, in driving this race today with this package and driving the track, did you find that it did things differently than you have experienced in the past?
There wasn't, other than the guys on the team, there wasn't much that was the same. I felt like Friday we were okay. I felt like we were pretty good in race trim. I felt like our qualifying runs in practice were good, and we got to qualifying and couldn't even drive it. It was so loose. So, that happened last week at Las Vegas as well. So there's just a different thought process with you take 30% of the downforce off the car. Things are just going to be different. We haven't been that close to really anything that we've run. So winning this race is going to allow us to really start to hone in on characteristics, different things that because it's going to be different. You know, we have a new race engineer that we also have to add into that mix with Dax, who's done a great job, but he was out at Atlanta. You know, that's one race that we didn't even. He was sick. Last week I was useless. You know, just didn't really even want to make a lap in the car, let alone race the car. So we've had a couple of speed weeks was fine, but you know, I think as you look at the last 2 weeks, everything's just felt out of sync. There's so much different. We've had pieces missing. We got our jackman back today, who's, you know, he was out with surgery. Felt like the pit stops were great today. So there's just been a lot of things that have happened that we've just you know, just felt clunky to me, just for not anything in our control. Just because of circumstances. But I think that's the great part about our team is we're able to overcome things like that. We've still been competitive every week, you know, but it hasn't been like today. You know, we didn't qualify well, but, you know, we've qualified 12th, 18th, 16th, 17th, whatever it's been. We're either on the pole or we're in that neck of the woods when it comes to qualifying. It's just a hard place to qualify and get it all right. So we've had a lot of circumstances that we've had to overcome. So winning today is really going to allow us to really hone in on what are the characteristics of the 1.5 mile tracks, what are the characteristics of the flat tracks, you know, allowing Dax to get up to speed and you know, really understand all the tools that are different from everything that he had at Michael Waltrip Racing for the last however many years. So there's just a lot of things that we still have to work through. And our team is, you know, we've had to overcome some different things, but there's a lot of teams that have to do the same. Every team has to do the same thing because I don't feel like anybody really knows exactly where we need to be because it's a totally different mentality, you know, in practice right now. You know, it's not about how fast you go. It's really about how long can you go fast. And really working with that graph and trying to get the fall off in the car to stay where it needs to be. So it reminds me of where we were, you know, 12, 15 years ago when we would practice. It wasn't who was the fastest, it's who could go fastest the longest.
Let's go to Mike Embry, then we'll go Bob Pockris and David Scott.
Mike Embry, USA Today. Kevin Carr was barely ahead of you in that last stretch. Did the last side-to-side contact ultimately make the difference in you having the margin?
Well, I felt like coming off of turn 4, I had some momentum, but I needed to do everything I could to try to scrub some momentum off of his car, and it just worked out timing, and I needed to get away. And by the time he realized that I had that momentum, and he, you know, tried to do the same thing, scrub the momentum off of my car, we were too far towards the start-finish line. So. It all worked out. Sometimes I can tell you that planned it all that way, but sometimes you're just lucky as hell.
Bob Pockris.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. With this chase format, knowing that a win can, you know, pretty much vault you in the playoffs, do you have any idea how much contact you'll have from, like, knowing how Carl Edwards races? Were you thinking, okay, he's going to be rough but clean but not dirty, or do you have no idea? And then secondly, if the positions are reversed in a few weeks, does the way he raced you today impact the way you race him?
I don't think there's any real love lost between the two of us. So, you know, I knew that I was going to get hit, and I'm going to hit him, you know, just in the same type of manner, just for the fact that I don't want to spit him out. But you definitely want to rough him up because that's not the guy that I want to lose to, and I know he doesn't want to lose to me.
David Scott.
David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. Kevin, when did you realize you'd won the race? And also, do you feel like you have a psychological advantage over guys at this track now, heading into the race?
I thought I had beat him to the start-finish line, you know, with where I thought I was, but sometimes our brains don't work exactly like they should inside the race car, and you don't really realize where you are or what you're doing. So, but you know, as far as the other guys, I mean, I don't really know. I fully expect to come here and beat them. You know, I know that, you know, you leave here and you don't win, you're disappointed. You know, we had the rain situation last time, and we were all fairly distraught over the situation and not winning the race. So it's a pressured situation that when you come here, your team and your guys and yourself, you expect to be in contention to win the race, but sometimes circumstances dictate exactly what happens at the end of the race. So in the end, it's been a really good racetrack for us, and we'll just keep riding the wave.
Let's go with Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, Kicking the Tires and Performance Racing Network. Can you talk about the endurance out there today? A lot of guys were wiped out, and I talked to Austin. He said they were exhausted after the race. Can you talk? You didn't have any of that?
My feet never even got hot. I have a beer stench to me, but I don't know that there's much sweat there. But I think a lot of that is a credit to the race team. I think as you look at the precautions that our guys take, they don't, a half a pound or 3/10 of a pound is not something that they're going to leave a footbox shield or something out because it's March. We're going to be overcautious on keeping the inside of the car cool, and they've really been conscious of that, just for the fact that I hadn't been feeling well the last 2 weeks. So they came here with what we normally wouldn't have, with an air conditioner in the car and the footbox completely insulated and those types of things, just based upon how I felt last week. So I felt good though. We're gonna drive 4 hours to Vegas, spend the night. Yeah, you want to go?
Go ahead, Chris.
You'll be with us.
Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Congratulations
What do you think?
on the.
Do you think we should push it all in on black or red?
Whatever you go with is good, because it'll probably win. So go ahead.
Like Jim Utter says, go big or go home.
That's right. Says the guy who never probably bets anything.
Oh, he bets. He cleans you out, I promise you.
Go ahead, Chris.
Chris Knight, catchfence.com. Rodney said next week at Auto Club he wasn't really sure what to expect yet. He says you guys have some work to do on the setups, and you're taking the car that you won with at Dover next weekend. How do you feel about going to Auto Club after finishing second
I have
last
no idea
year?
what car they're taking. I never ask them.
Dover.
I never ask them what they're putting in for a setup. I know that I'm going to be on the top seam throwing dust when practice starts. So, I think as you look at that particular race, that's been one of our best races over the years, and I think every driver in the garage is looking forward to racing this particular package at California, because it's going to be, there's been a lot of chatter about it. You can race on the top, you can race on the bottom, and I think it's going to be pretty exciting. So I know all the drivers seem to be really excited about it. I know I'm excited about it, and really looking forward to what happens, because the cars are going to be out of control, which is exactly what we're looking for.
We'll end on that. Again, Kevin, congratulations. It was a great race out here today, and best of luck at Auto Club.
Thank you.